Okay, let's make the Easy Does It bag. It's a simple enough bag that you'll be just fine as long as you stay calm, be patient with yourself. Don't expect perfection if it's your first time through. My bags still aren't even perfect. Like, who does that? All right, I'm going to be using this Cafe. Isn't it gorge? And this grunge purple. If you bought a kit from me, you have these ingredients. And I have another grunge for the handle that we'll be doing as well. But first off, I'm going to take you overhead because I find that using the 505 temporary adhesive spray makes this project 100% easier. Otherwise, a lot of times what happens, even for me, is when I'm quilting it, I quilt in ripples or wrinkles, and nothing makes me more ragey than that. So let's go overhead. Sorry. I just ate a granola bar. Gonna have to mute that. There's the inside. Now, I did press these with my iron before I go to do this. This one I cut a little bit weird, but we're gonna make it work. I used to spray the foam, but I couldn't see it as well, so now I spray my fabric. I talked to several seasoned quilters, and they spray the fabric too. So I think it's a good idea. So let's just do that. You just want to press it from the center out. If you see a wrinkle, pull it up, smooth it out. Ooh. Here we go. Okay, now I think it looks good. I always check it on both sides. All right, now what I'm gonna do is make sure my machine is set up for success. I'm putting it at a 3mm stitch length, and I'm using Gutermann thread. Now mine has pink in it. I'm thinking that it'll be easier for you to see it. I don't have white here, or I would use white. You might want to use a blue thread. Or purple. We have several colors in stock at SewHungryHippie.com. If you want to grab one of those Gutermanns, it's awesome thread. Now, you can hero marker a design if you want. I like to just keep it simple and quilt straight lines. It's very, very easy. And I'm going to start out here, and I start right on the foam. No big deal. You can backstitch if you want. It's not super important to backstitch because we are going to cut our pieces out of this big giant piece. So these, this row might not even make it in the final cut. I'm going to have my needle down, lift my foot, and I'm going to turn. Now I'm just eyeballing this. Needle down, lifting the foot, and I'm going to go up the other way. I usually don't go back and forth like this, but if you're using spray adhesive, it's safe to do this. If you're not, you probably want to take your project out and quilt the same direction each time. Okay? I'm going to go over again. I'm not measuring. This is all eyeball. And trust me, it'll be fine. You can also use the width of your foot as your measuring guide. And I will just speed this up so that you don't have to sit here the whole time that I'm quilting. But make this, sort of meditative for you. You could put on a podcast or music in the background And just take your time and enjoy the process here, because it is fun. And don't be too strict on yourself either. It's going to look great, the end result, no matter what. I'm going to roll this up a little. Now, when I'm quilting like this, I'm watching this space so that it's generally the same width the whole way down. If you prefer to make chalk lines or mark it in some other way, you can absolutely do that. Do whatever you are most comfortable with. I just want you to know that you don't have to be perfect with quilting because it's going to be beautiful. The quilting adds texture. Now, you can always take it out and check how things are going. Isn't that fun? You can also always respray if you need to. I'm noticing that the back here is, this corner just needs a little bit more spray. And this one too. Let me see if anything else does. Well, doesn't hurt. Just keep it all flat. There we go. Like that. There's just something really calming and meditative about doing the quilting part. I really enjoy it. And I like the texture that it lends to the end project. You know, it's not a look for every single project if it's not your thing, but it is fun with a beautiful fabric like this. I just feel like it makes it sing. And you could use this technique on other bag patterns. Even if they don't call for it, you can do it this way. One thing that I think would be amazing is to do the Trina backpack this way. That's my backpack pattern that's been out since 2018. And right now I have it as a separate exterior and lining, and they go together like a bag. But if you wanted to do it this way, it might even be easier. You would just need to for sure bind it on the inside. All right, so it's quilted. I like to just hit it with the iron quick. Don't freak out with the soft and stable. You might see some creasing, or I don't know what to call it really, but it comes out with ironing and sewing the bag together, and I just love it. I love this so much. Now we need to cut out our pieces. Okay, so I'm going to take you overhead. It's really, really important that you cut out your pieces at the right orientation, or you're going to run out of fabric. So I have laid this out. We're supposed to cut two bag main bodies. So that's this piece. So I've cut one out here to show you. You'll cut one piece here, flip it, and cut one piece here. This, just so you know, is the 21 inch, 22 inch edge. If you cut it on this side, you're going to run out of fabric. There's not enough room. So I did this as a sample so I can show you. All right, so cut one, cut two. Then you're going to cut this strip, which is the side strip, 4 3/4, right? 4 3/4 by 18. See, we have enough room there. And then with the remaining, you're going to cut two strips, 2 1/4 by 13 long. So we've got the 13, we've got more than that here, but we need 2 1/4, 2 strips. So I'm going to move this. And I think I don't have my long ruler here anymore. So I'm going to use this ruler. And first up, I'm just going to trim up this edge. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to work with a straight edge here. I barely trimmed anything off, just FYI. So 2 1/4. There's one. And I'll just cut it all the way down to be easy. And 2 1/4. So now I got to trim these down to 13. So I'm going to go from here. I like to start with a really crisp edge. And 13, right? Is that right? Yes. Always read your pattern a few times before you cut. Okay, so those I'll leave over there. This is trash. This one I've already cut out, but I may cut a new piece just so we're all working with the same thing. I had quilted this last week and I was not feeling right, you know, I just wasn't in it, so I stopped. And I told Ramel, I'm going to just start over the video because you can just see it in my face that I was too tired. Okay, there we are. So we're doing up and down orientation. There's that piece. And then I'll cut 2 new pieces since I quilted it this way this time. And last time I did horizontal, see that? So I'm just going to do these again. This measures 6.5 by 9.5. Might as well just start over. Give myself a really crisp, clean edge. 9.5. Nine and a half. And now 6.5. Okay. Yay, there are our pieces. I'm going to move these so I don't confuse myself later. Okay, main body pieces. What does she call this? Side strip. And here are the zipper strips. Okay, so that was part C. Round all 4 corners on the bag using a 2.5-inch circular object. So let's see how big this jar is. I'm going to move these guys. This one is actually 3, so that's a little too big. This jar is 2. That can work. I'll just use this one. And all you're doing is rounding these corners. It makes it kind of cute. My 60 is not going to want to cut that, so I'm going to use scissors. You can draw the line and then cut, but you're just kind of curving this a bit. And so once I do one, I can fold it up and use it as a template. And I round it a little bit better. And then I'll fold it this way and the same thing. Now I wish I had my 28mm here, but I don't, so I'll make the 60 work. There it is. Now I'll do the same thing over here, only I have a template now. There's that corner. I'm stressing this rotary a lot, I can tell. With curves, you want to use a smaller rotary cutter. But I am the queen of making it work, let me tell you what. All right, there's that part. And now stitch around each quilted piece to secure the layers. And that's because some of these edges now might be a little cut. So we just want to make sure that the fabric doesn't wrinkle up when we're sewing this bag together. And the best way to do that is to just go around each edge and secure it all down. Even if you think it's good to go, just do this step or you'll regret it. Not that I know anything about that. And let's grab the other two pieces, the zipper strips, and do those. Uh-oh, did I run out of bobbin? See here, the potential is, or the risk, if you don't do this step, is this could fold up when you sew your bag together and then you have exposed foam showing. Oh no, I am out of bobbin. I sewed that whole side without bobbin. Son of a gun. Awesome, ready to go. Okay, so now we've got all of C done, and now we are on part 2 called Prepare Components. Use accurate 1/4 inch seams unless directed otherwise. Now, I'm using pre-made binding, so I don't need to make the binding, and I suggest you don't either. Just buy some pre-made rights. If you bought a kit, I put a package in there for you. So I get to skip all of A. Prepare the handles. Fuse, we're going to use SF101 to that wrong side of the handle fabric. Here's my handle fabric, and I'm just going to cut some of this fusible interfacing. Okay, and we're going to go to the iron, press it to the wrong side. I use high heat on my iron. I've never had a problem with it. And then because I didn't cut it super exact, I'm just going to trim it up quick before we go any further. I do this a lot where I kind of just rough cut the interfacing. I don't know if it's a personality flaw or what. Okay, so there is, let's This looks a little, how big is this supposed to be? 4 by 5 3/4. So it's 4, but this way it needs to be, oh, it's good. Now we're going to bring our raw edges in to meet that crease. And then fold again. And I'm going to press this with the iron. I only have ever done one handle for this project. She calls for a handle on each side. You can absolutely do that. Maybe I should. I don't know if I brought more. This fabric is the only thing. Don't worry about those side edges. Those get hidden inside a seam later. I just sew that part just for fun, so I don't have to take it out. So repeat, and we'll make another one. Mine is probably going to have to be a different fabric, though. I should have brought my sample today. Did I? You know, I think I did, and then I had Ramel take it back with him. So we're going to do the same thing. Fold it in half. Bring these in to meet the center. And then fold one more time. And now we'll sew around the edges. All right, 2 handles. So part B, we did that. Now we're on part C. Sure hope I can find my zipper. All right, now we are ready to add the zipper. We're on part C, prepare the zipper strip. Let's go overhead. Right now you're going to take one of your strips. These are the long pieces like this. And we're going to work with one with the exterior facing up and place the zipper on top right sides together. Notice my zipper is the right side facing down. And you can use clips if you like. I don't generally need a whole bunch because it's just little. There we go. And we're going to sew right down this edge. Okay. Now you're going to turn the zipper tape to the inside of the strip and sew along the very edge of that zipper tape. And what we're trying to do here is enclose that raw edge. I like to use my stiletto, but of course I took my tools to the new studio. So I'll make do, as we all do as sewists, and use my seam ripper. And this part, I want to get way close to that edge so that I'm not spotting any foam peeking out. So it's like an 1/8 of an inch. And I do look at it this way rather than sewing it from the front. Oops. Yeah, it looks pretty good. The only part that I didn't get trim very well was this middle part, but that's okay. It's going to be on the underside. Nobody's going to see it. This is how you want to have it look. This section is really good. Okay, let's do it again on the other side. Now, if we have it extend out a little bit from that edge, oops. I think it's easier to do it this way. Make sure that your sides are lined up with one another. So if you have a little bit of a lip here, it'll hide the foam a little better. And if you're using a number 5 zipper like the one I put in the kit, you'll be just fine. There's plenty of room. So let's sew down this edge. Now we're going to flip it. And we're sewing on the zipper tape on that very, very tippy edge here. Go as slow as you need to. Can you see that angle where I'm pressing this down as I sew? Looks better than the first one. All right. So that is number 3. Number 4, move the zipper slide to the inside and quilt across the ends to create new stops. So in the kit, I gave you a lot of zipper tape just so you could get that pull. Actually, I think I put the pull on for you. Let's go overhead. What we're going to do is sew these, okay? I'm just going to go right across that. These look like metal, but they're nylon, so you will be just fine. Make sure that on this end you bring the pole kind of close so that it's even when you're sewing across. I go back and forth quite a few times just because I need it really secure. These scissors are done. They are super done. I'm going to use my new scissors. There we go. Let me go overhead so you can see. You're going to trim it even with those ends. Okay, on both sides. All right. So that finishes that part. Now we're on to D, which is prepare zipper, side strip, and attach handles. You want to get out your side strip, and you're going to sew one end to this. Let's go overhead and I'll show you again. Here's your long side strip. This end is going to go here, and this end is going to go here. And we're going to sew right here. Okay, so if you need to use clips, go ahead and do so. Make sure your zipper pull is out of the way. I gotta yeah, mine's back a little bit. Now I'm gonna go on the other end. This is right sides together. So it's like a little loop right now. So now we've got these two little strips for the side binding. Oops, I unplugged my iron. And I'm going to fold them in half. Let me take this overhead so you can see. Don't be afraid of the binding process. You're going to be just fine. All right. There's that. So now we're going to let's start with this zipper end, and we're going to open it up. And we're going to sew right here. Okay, so we've got that edge folded. Now you're going to press this down and press it with your iron, if you like, and then fold it over. And you can use clips to hold this in place. And we're going to end up sewing a few times across here just to make sure it's really flat. Okay? So I go at the outer edge first. And then come in here, go across again. And we're just flattening it down. If you don't want to go this many times, you don't have to, but it's nice. And there, it's nice and flat. Very, very flat. And by starting on this side, we're hiding, you know, when the pouch is made, you don't usually turn it right sides out and look at the underside of the zipper. Now you might see this side on the bottom edge. You'll see this side more often. So that's why I make this side the cleanest. Okay, let's do the same thing to this end. So I'm going to start by matching those raw edges and sewing 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to take it to my iron. You'll see. And we're going to fold that raw edge in to touch that crease. Like this. Oh yeah, I like that. So take that raw edge and fold it down to meet the short end of the strip, and then fold it again. We have a nice, cute little binding edge then. I like that. Let's sew that outer edge first. And again, 1/4 of an inch. And again. And there we are. Great, love it. Let's move on. Okay, so this is number 5 on section D. We're gonna attach a side strip, or what's it called? Side strip. On main fabric side of the side strip, which is this piece without the zipper, attach one of the prepared handles. So we've got these, right? So we're gonna come down from this edge. I like to feel where that binding finishes, and I go just below it. Now, it's nice to use clips here. You want this handle to bow out. That makes it easy to grab. So I'm gonna do that. Make sure that your handle is even. So you might need to either measure or lift it up. Make sure it's even and it's not wonky. You want it straight across. Yeah, that looks good. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now, because this one is at a certain area, let me measure. So I'm about 1 inch down from that seam line. So I want to put this one at the same area or it might look strange. So here's one. And then here's the other side. Make sure this is about 1 inch down. Yep. And about 1 inch down. Yep. Okay, so we've got 2. Now we need to sew those side edges. I go over it a few times because I don't want a handle coming off later with use. Now you could make this pouch with soft vinyl quite easily. I've made it with Moon Glow as well. But soft vinyl is an easier sew for this kind of a pouch. Okay, awesome. Good job. We're almost there. So now we're going to assemble the bag. We're on part 3, assemble the bag, and this is part A. Find the centers of the top and bottom. This is my trick. I do this all the time. You can either use a pin, you can mark it if you've got a marking tool, you can use a hair marker, or you can iron it. It kind of depends on the materials you're using, what you're going to do. Okay, so I have found the middles here, and I can see my crease, the middle here. Let me just put a pin so you can see it. Here are my middles. So we're going to sew this right sides together. Matching those middles. I would use clips if I was not using fabric. Okay. And then you're just going to ease it around. Now, one thing I do is I make sure, if you're using two handles, make sure they're straight across from each other. It looks like this side needs to come up a smidge. That looks a lot better. On this one. Okay, let's sew this. Oops. Stiletto back. Okay. I always run my finger around in here so that if I missed any seams, I know right away and I can fix it. Good. It's good to go. So now we're going to do the same thing for the other side. I like to put everything on and then I do the binding. So again, I'm going to find the centers. And match it here. I'm going to sew on this side exactly the same way. I'm going to trim a little of this foam along the sides so that we can add our binding without a problem. And we are almost there. Now the binding for a lot of folks is the hardest part, but don't let it be. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody is going to be looking at your binding, okay? So get over it and let's do this together, because I don't love it, but it is necessary for structure of the bag and some patterns. So I just handle it, you know? Let's run around. Let me run my finger around the edge of this second one and make sure I caught all the seams. Okay. Come here, husband, now that you're back.
What do you want me to do?
I need to give you a beso. For the binding, I like using the Wrights prepackaged. It's what I put in your kits in case you bought a kit. And I usually start over here on the side edge and I go all the way around and then I'll join these afterwards, because what you do here is you line up you open the binding first of all, see how wide it actually is. And you line up that raw edge with the raw edge of the item. And then see this crease, that ditch? We're going to sew right in that ditch. And then once that's sewn, we can easily fold it over to the other side and we go around one more time on this side with the binding folded over. So it's quite easy. It just takes some practice to feel comfortable about it, and it's a skill. So with some time and with some practice, you'll get better and better. I have to tell you, none of my bound bags are 100% perfect. It's just the nature of the game. Does anyone stop and say, this binding isn't perfect inside? No, they don't even know what they're looking at, especially if they don't sew. What? They don't know. Have you ever looked at off the rack bags? Oh my gosh, they're terrible. So, do I sound like Minnesotan right now?
Yeah.
I think Fargo might be doing a number on me.
Awesome.
That show. They say Duluth is the new like Silicon Valley. Did you know that, Ramel? Lots of Silicon Valley folks are moving to Duluth. I've always thought it was a great town, but
I know that
I'm partial because I'm Midwestern.
Madison is the Silicon Valley of medical research.
Yeah, actually, I was watching a YouTube medical video the other day, and the main researcher was from UW-Madison. So I'm sewing right in that ditch. I hope you can, I'll try to press this down so you can really see. Ramel, be on standby in case something isn't very good view.
Looks good.
And in these corners, you just have to kind of use your stiletto. You might need to lift the foot here and there. Don't worry about it. If you've got a tiny wrinkle in your binding, it's not going to show. So please, I went off the rails there. I got to get back on the rails. Okay, here we go. Now I'm coming down to this edge where I started, and I'm just going to fold in that short edge. See that short edge? I'm going to fold it in a bit. And as I get closer, this is way too much here. Let me cut some of this off. As I get closer, I'm going to lift my foot and tuck in that second one. It's just kind of my cheater trick. Boom. We don't have to worry about anything else, because once I turn it, see how it's going to look? It's amazing. So you don't have to do all this wacky-do binding, short end, trickery, or anything. You're fine. Let's go overhead and I'll show you how this just pops around to the other side. So you just kind of come in here, pop it around. It wants to turn. Look how awesome it's gonna look. Okay? I have a tiny little crease right here. Whatever, you're gonna just sit there and live your life, crease, because I do not have time for that. And it's teeny tiny. I'm not even gonna notice that. Can you even see that? Might have to get a microscope. So that's for me to just prove to you, it doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. Here we go. So that other raw edge is tucked into the middle, and this is a folded edge here that I'm clipping down. You can whack these edges with the mallet. We sell those nylon mallets in our shop. I use them all the time. But I don't feel like this needs it, honestly. For me, I did trim away some of that foam, so it doesn't feel very thick here. If it feels thick for you, either trim some foam out of the way or whack it with the hammer. Now this end, I'm going to tuck and tuck. There we go. And that final corner. Now, if you wanted to, you can absolutely use Elmer's glue in this seam and let it sit overnight clipped and then go back and sew it. I've done that before. It is easy because you're not having to pull out the clips, but I think you'll be fine if you just do it this way with me, honestly. And Elmer's school glue does not dry super hard or anything, so it won't break your needle like another glue might. All right, I'm gonna find the edge where I joined the binding, the short ends together, and I'm gonna start there because that's the thickest part, and then just sew all the way around. Ready? Let's do this. Perfect, but it's good enough, you know? So now we're going to do the same thing to this side. And that gives a really nice structure to the bag. Now take a check, because at this point, if there's anything that is bugging you, like let's say the outside you sewed in a wrinkle or something, you can fix it quite easily right now. I had to unpick one single stitch and now my corner is good. Perfect. Okay, let's do this side. And I might have Rimmel speed this side up, so don't feel pressured. I just try to make my videos not too long so it doesn't look too intimidating when you're first clicking around. I'm going to have the join, you know, a little bit away from this seam, which is a little bit bulky. We'll just have the join happen down here below. So I fold in that short edge a little bit, and then I'm just going to clip it all around. Here we go. Now I sew down the skinnier section first so that the wider section, when I wrap it around, it encloses all the stitches. Now this is a by Annie pattern, so you can definitely watch her video as well. All right, trim your threads. Give it a once over, trim any threads you need to, and then turn it right sides out. I love this color palette. And the pink binding inside, or some kits had navy blue. I think that just adds a little something to it rather than blend perfectly in. I don't know, I just like it. I make kits the way I like the projects, if you haven't noticed. Now, one thing you can do is at these seams, press it with your fingers or with your iron, or you can take clips. I recommend the kind of larger ones, and you clip that seam and let it sit overnight, like 24 hours, all those seams. And what that does is it makes the seams really crisp. It looks amazing. So if you have the patience to do that, I highly recommend it. Makes a really big difference, especially if you're selling these at craft shows or whatever, giving them as gifts for Christmas or whatever you do. Maybe you're just making it for yourself. always find threads after the fact. Okay, and there it is. So cute. And once I press my seams out, this is going to behave really nicely. I usually do the clip method and just let it sit at least overnight, and then it's just excellent. So I know you can do this. If you weren't sewing with me, get your confidence in order and let's do this together. Pause as many times as you need, and remember, perfection is not the goal, all right? The best you can at this point in time is the goal, because the more you do something, the better you get at it. Nobody's perfect at anything, despite what they tell you. So there's that. You got anything to add, Ramil?
Nope.
All right. I will see you soon. Thank you for watching. Peace, love, sewing.